Hello everyone, and welcome to the I Didn't Know ClearPoint Could Do That webinar series. Today we are talking best practices for organizing your ClearPoint account. Before we get started, here are your smiling hosts. I'm Catherine.
And I'm Avery.
And as a few housekeeping announcements, we will be recording this session and we'll make it available within a week. The webinar will last about 25 minutes with time for questions, so submit your questions to support@clearpointstrategy.com. We'll get to as many as we can at the end. Any that we don't answer on air, we'll follow up with by email. Now, on our last installment, we touched on some exciting new features in ClearPoint 11, so you can check out that recording on our blog, Support Center, and Vimeo channel. Just search webinar. Now, as you know, a clean ClearPoint is a happy ClearPoint. And why is that? Why is clutter so detrimental to tracking your strategy? Well, we know one of the hardest and most important parts of tracking strategy can be engagement, engaging users to both follow the progress of your plan and keep their information up to date. So here are two scenarios. In one scenario, users log in once a month or quarter, see several fields that they don't recognize, reporting periods with different names, and they aren't sure which summary report gives them the information they need because there are so many. In another scenario, users log in once a month or quarter to update their data. They know which summary reports to check, which fields to update, and everything is standardized and customized to match your organization's process. Do you see which experience is going to keep users excited? We want to help you run as efficiently and effectively as possible, and it won't save time if there's confusion in ClearPoint. So it's time to tighten it all up. And for those of you who are in your first year of ClearPoint or brand new, you may be thinking that the next 25 minutes is not for you, but think again. Taking these best practices into account now as you add information will make it so much easier to maintain your account in the long run. Now, today's webinar structure is going to be a little bit different, so here's what we'd like you to do. Go ahead and get a pen and paper ready to take notes, and open up a new browser window. So you might want to put this on your second screen if you have one. And in that window, go ahead and log into your ClearPoint account. We're going to give you a few seconds here to do this.
So while you guys get set up, what we're going to do today is walk through each topic in ClearPoint's Spring Cleaning ebook and point out potential problems along with solutions, of course. We'll do some demos on our screen, and we also want to give you a chance to follow along with us for other aspects in your own account. That way, you'll have a chance to compare to the best practices we describe and take notes for improvement. We strongly recommend that you don't make any changes now, since that will be too time-consuming, but do jot down some notes for what you could clean up on each screen.
Right, so you may have printed out our ClearPoint Spring Cleaning ebook, and that is going to be our manual today. We'll go through the chapters in order so you can follow along with us as we walk through it, which brings us to our agenda. We're going to tackle preserving your information, creating a reporting calendar, cleaning up your periods and reporting frequencies, talking some aspects of system configuration, managing users, cleaning up templates and documents, notifications and reminders, and lastly, community dashboards for those of you that have them. All right, that's quite enough intro, so let's dive in. Avery will start us off with preserving your information in ClearPoint.
Great, so as we get started talking about tidying up your account, the first and most important step is to make sure that none of your old information or data gets lost. Lucky for you, ClearPoint has several different options for preserving your historical information to ensure that you can still check up on past data while keeping your account spick and span and easy to navigate for your users. The first option for preserving your old information is called a snapshot, which is essentially just a view-only copy of your entire account as it exists at that moment, so that your old information is saved before you start making changes for the new year. So in your account, go ahead and follow me over to Admin Options. Admin Options is on the control panel, and under System Settings, we'll go to Snapshots, which is second from the left in the middle of all of your options. So take note of whether you have snapshots here and how many. Most organizations are licensed to have 3. Maybe you don't still need that copy of your account from 2014. From here, you can also add a new snapshot by clicking on the plus icon. If your organization makes changes to the same scorecards from one year to the next, then adding a new snapshot will be the best option for preserving older versions of data. So let's name it snapshot and then today's date. We'll go ahead and save it, and now that snapshot will be added to your account. So if your organization is one that duplicates yearly scorecards to track your strategic plan, or you want to make changes to a scorecard but want to keep a working copy of what it looked like previously, then locking scorecards might be the best option for you. Locking scorecards prevents any further edits or updates for that scorecard moving forward, and I'll show you where to find this on my screen. So I'll click on Scorecards in the top navigation, go to Manage Scorecards here, and then click to edit the scorecard that we want to lock, and check off the box next to Locked here. Now when we save it, that scorecard will be locked and any further updates or edits will be prevented going forward. Now that you know your old data is safe and secure, let's make sure your reporting calendar is up to date.
Definitely. Now, when you're cleaning up your account, this is a great time to make sure that you're on top of when and how you review your information. That's right, we're talking about your reporting calendar, the calendar around which you enter data and meet with various groups about performance and strategy. So during your ClearPoint cleaning process, you'll want to make sure that this information is up to date for the upcoming year. For example, what are the monthly or quarterly deadlines for users to enter data? When are your meetings going to be held, and what information will be reviewed there? And have you communicated these deadlines and meeting attendance requirements with your team? So if you haven't already got a document like this, feel free to check out our Management Reporting Guide template. This process is going to help you document a robust reporting process with your reporting calendar included and more.
So your reporting calendar is up to date for the upcoming year. Naturally, your next step should be to make sure your reporting periods and reporting frequencies are good to go. In your account, in the control panel, we'll go under System Settings to Reporting Periods. So there's a couple of things to look for here. First, you want to make sure that all names are standardized.
Right, so on this page, all the period names should look the same. If you need your period names to reflect quarterly or annual data, that should be done in reporting frequency, not in the reporting period itself.
Right. Having certain periods stand out from the rest is a really bad look, and it's going to prevent your reports from looking clean and uniform. So let's jump back to my screen for an example. We can see here that my August period is really out of whack. So let's go ahead and fix that now. We want to make sure it matches all of the other periods in the account with the formatting of the name the same as the others. So let's delete this here. We'll change it to the first 3 letters of the month and the last 2 numbers of the year. And then we'll also want to make sure that the period date is the last date of that month, like the others. So right now we have it set to August 17th. I'm going to change that to August 31st and say Save. So this is going to ensure that ClearPoint always displays the right period at the right time. Of course, when a new year rolls around, you'll need to add new reporting periods to ClearPoint, and make sure to keep 3 things in mind when doing so. Catherine, do you have any idea what those 3 things could be?
Well, knowing ClearPoint, I'm sure it has something to do with saving time.
Exactly. First, remember to use our Add Multiple feature rather than wasting time adding each period on its own. Second, as we discussed, you'll want to keep all period names uniform as to not confuse your users. Third, avoid making new periods scorecard specific. Just like mixing up the format of your period names, it's only going to further confuse your users. Lastly, you're going to want to consider reporting frequencies for these new periods. Have you made sure to assign all of your new reporting periods to their appropriate reporting frequencies? If your new reporting periods should have been added to multiple reporting frequencies, did you do so? This will again save you time and also make sure your reporting frequencies are up to date. All right, so go ahead and pull up your account again. We're going to look at cleaning up your reporting frequencies. In the top right corner of the reporting periods page in your account, you'll see a toggle here. You can access reporting frequencies by clicking on the calendar icon with a check mark in that toggle. So here's a few warning signs to look for before we get started. You've got several duplicates of a scorecard-specific reporting frequency. You've got multiple versions of the same type of frequency, like 2 fiscal annual frequencies, or even ones whose names are so outdated and specific you don't really know why they were ever used at all. What you want to see here is a single reporting frequency for each scenario you need. This typically results in 6 to 8 frequencies, monthly, quarterly, and annual, for both your calendar and fiscal year.
Right. So you may see some additional instances for historical data, like a 5-year monthly frequency for when you've got that much data, and a 2-year monthly frequency for when you've only started tracking something more recently. In any case, you want to make sure that those options are minimal and clearly labeled.
So let's turn back to my screen. I see a weird reporting frequency here, 2016 biannual quarterly, that I know needs to be removed, but it looks like we can't delete it since it's currently in use. To help you out in these scenarios, we recommend building a report filtered on reporting frequencies to see which of your elements are using weird or outdated ones. Then you can switch them to something more standardized. So let's navigate back to the Upward Airlines corporate scorecard and take a look at our matrix report. Here, you can see which of your elements are using which reporting frequencies and reassign them if necessary. So we can see here that it looks like net profit is the culprit, and we can fix that by visiting its detail page and reassigning it to a monthly reporting frequency. So I'm just going to click to edit it here, navigate to Edit Measure, assign it to a monthly reporting frequency from this drop-down here, and say Save. So once this is complete, we'll be able to delete that odd reporting frequency that we no longer need. Finally, after you've addressed your reporting periods and reporting frequencies, you'll want to define your fiscal years. So to do this, we're going to click back into System Settings, back into Reporting Periods here, and then these can be accessed from the blank calendar icon found in the upper right-hand toggle. Managing your fiscal years appropriately at the annual rollover is really important just to make sure that any of your year-to-date calculations run smoothly and accurately so that your data isn't skewed.
Great. And while we're here under System Settings, let's take a look at some other areas that should be kept tidy. Now, heavy customization is one of the awesome benefits of ClearPoint, but it can also become your Achilles heel if it builds up unchecked over time. I have this one recurring nightmare where I log into ClearPoint and there's 100 different fields on the page and I don't know what they mean and each one has a different pause style.
Well, let's make sure that dream doesn't become a reality. Also, you dream about ClearPoint?
Doesn't everyone?
Sure.
Anyway, for this chapter on system configuration, we're going to take a look at admin options. So in your account, you can find this in the control panel under System Settings, and it'll be that first option, Admin Options. And we'll start by taking a look at our default page layouts. So this is actually found in Organization and Security, which is the option in the top left corner. So click on that. And we're going to go to the Default Layouts tab down at the bottom. Now, these defaults define what fields are going to show up on detail pages when you create a new element.
And that's great for standardizing the information you show.
Exactly. So these layouts are based off of the existing layout of a particular element. So if you set up a layout you really like our profitability objective, for example, you can type the name of that element, select it from the dropdown, and going forward, any new elements you create are going to have the same layout as profitability. Now, if you don't see anything listed here on the screen, you might want to think about whether you have elements that you'd like to set up as the defaults for consistency. Otherwise, new elements you add are going to take on the page layout of the most recently edited element of that type. If you do have default layouts in place already, your ClearPoint cleaning is a good time to review them and reassess them if necessary. So I'm just going to save out of this window and go ahead and do the same. And next, we'll click on Default Series. So this is towards the center right of Admin Options, in the middle there. And your default series are the series that are going to appear in your data table when you create a new measure. So when you're cleaning, it's a good time to take a look at what's set up here and determine whether this is still sufficient for your newly added measures.
So be aware that this does not impact the measures you already have in your account. Default series are only going to be applied to newly added measures.
Great point. And while we're here, I do want to point out that you can also set the default number format that we want the series to take. So by clicking to edit these series, we'll see here our default data type is currency. If you're tracking more percentages than currencies, you might want to make sure that your default settings reflect this. So go ahead and just exit out of this window. And custom fields are our next stop in the bottom left corner. Now, custom fields are one of our repeat offenders for building up over time. Maybe you used to track one type of field, but you don't anymore. Maybe you have duplicates with the same name. Maybe you have no idea what the name of those fields even mean. It can really wreak havoc.
Understandably, though, you want to make sure that there's no important information in these fields before you clean them up.
Right. So what I recommend for that is to create a report for each type of element where all your custom fields for that element are included, and you can see which ones you don't need anymore. So go ahead and take a look at my screen, and I'll show you how to set it up. So let's go ahead and do this for our measures. I'm going to go to Measures, Manage Measures Report, and I'll add a new report by clicking that plus icon. We'll call it Custom Field Cleanup. Now on the Columns tab, I want to add the measure name and any custom measure fields in my account. So there's a lot of defaults here, but if I scroll down to the bottom, I will see description, formula, data source, and description again. Well, let's make sure those are all displayed. And before we click Save, I am going to want to include all scorecards by checking them off on the Measures tab.
If you have a large number of scorecards, you might want to include them in batches and export to Excel to compile one large report. This is just going to make it load a lot faster.
Right. If you have a huge account, that's a great idea. So we're okay here with our 4 scorecards. Let's go ahead and click Save. And I'll go to our report. Now, it might be easiest just to export this to Excel in any case so that you can really easily see all the rows in one page. And I've actually already made an Excel export of this report so that we can take a look. So here I see that formula and data source are actually completely empty for all of our measures, which means maybe we were never tracking them, maybe we're not tracking them anymore, but we can go ahead and just delete them to clean up our account. In the instance of description, it looks like description has gone rogue in a couple of places. So what we're going to want to do is to use this report in ClearPoint to transfer all of those descriptions so that they're in one field and not 2. So I'll just copy and paste that information and save. And then I could go in and delete that additional description field.
So one other thing that helps with cleaning up duplicates is to adjust the name slightly, like description 1 and description 2, so that you can tell which one to delete.
That's a great suggestion. And once your fields are all clean for each type of element, part of putting together a great management reporting guide might be a description of what types of information should be tracked in each remaining field. That way it's crystal clear when users go in to make their updates. So our next step is calculated fields, and before we dive into these in admin options, I'm going to go ahead and pull up an example on my screen. So we'll go to our series data report. And on the far right side of this report, you can see our calculated field. Instead of the horizontal series format in the series status column, you can see that one series is selected and displayed as a column here. Now, the catch with calculated fields is that series do all need to have the same name in order for a value to display. So something like an actual series works well. And here's where it's important to clean these up. Each calculated field will appear as options for columns that you can add to summary reports. So if there's a lot of them cluttering your account, it can be confusing which ones show which data. So now it's time in your account to head back over to the control panel, System Settings, and Admin Options. And I'm going to click here on Calculated Fields, which is down on the left next to Custom Fields. So here we have our complete list, and you'll just want to take note if there's a lot of clutter here to go in and look at what each calculated field is displaying and whether or not you're still using all of these fields. So fiscal year 13 target, I can see that it's pulling in any target series for December 13, which we really probably don't need to see anymore. I'm just going to go ahead and delete that, and we'll save out of this window. Now, our last stop here in admin options is the data loader in the bottom right. If you use the data loader, you may want to take a look here at your list of packages to see if that all of them are still in use. Now, believe it or not, we haven't even covered everything that's available in admin options. We've just touched on the areas that tend to get most cluttered. So if you do have any remaining questions about what's here, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Great. So this brings us to one of the most important pieces of the ClearPoint puzzle, your users. So in your account, go ahead and click on the Users and Groups page, which can be found in the Control panel under System Settings. The annual rollover is the perfect time to address who has access to what in your account and make sure the appropriate people are responsible for the appropriate elements. So how should you go about setting up ownership and making sure everyone has the right permissions? There are 2 reports that are here to help. So let's go ahead and generate both of these so you can refer to them after the webinar. We'll start with the user access report, which can be found in the top right corner in the menu next to the add icon. So we'll generate it here. And then we're also going to go ahead and generate the user activity report. So I've actually got a copy of each of these here already. So I'm going to pull up the user access report on my screen. As you can see, this report is a great way to see which of your users has what level of access to each scorecard in your account. After all, we know that roles and organizations are constantly changing, and this will help you to better stay on top of making sure each of your users is responsible for the appropriate elements in your account. Now, you'll also want to go ahead and get rid of any users who no longer serve a purpose in ClearPoint. So for that, we're going to use our user activity report to see who's active and who is not in your account. I'm going to go ahead and close this. I'll pull up that user activity report. And as you can see on my screen, you can see this shows activity count by user as well as activity by scorecard on our second tab. It looks like several users here, as we can see, haven't been active at all. So if some of these are browsers who no longer work at the organization, you should definitely go ahead and remove them and get rid of all that clutter.
Or another option is if you still want their names to remain in the account to indicate past ownership or collaboration, you can change their permissions to no access. That way, their name will still be in the system, but they can't log into ClearPoint.
Definitely. So do you notice any other users who haven't been as active as they should be? If so, we're going to suggest scheduling additional mini trainings to get them up to speed, or find other ways to get them engaged in the tool to ensure no area of your strategic plan is falling through the cracks. Lastly, if you have new stakeholders who need access to your data, add them on in and train them. Let your new users know to take advantage of our Getting Started guide, and when adding everyone in, don't forget to assign ownership to the appropriate elements.
Those are some really helpful points. User engagement is key to a successful strategic plan, and we all know that reports are an important part of increasing the understanding of your plan and progress. So next, we'll tackle summary reports. All right, so in your account, go ahead and click on one of your organization's most heavily used scorecards. For me, that's going to be our Upward Airlines corporate scorecard. And in that scorecard, click on a top navigation menu that corresponds with an element you use a lot. For us, that's going to be measures. For most organizations, it's probably measures or maybe initiatives. Now, those items in bold at the top of the list are your summary reports. And summary reports are a great place for users to update data or to review particular sets of information during meetings.
You may, though, also have accumulated some test reports from trying different versions or from creating views to make one-time bulk changes.
Right. So there's a couple of things that we can do about those unnecessary reports if we click on that very top option, Manage Measure Reports. So one option for your outdated, unused reports is just to delete them if you're certain it's no longer necessary. So this test template copy that I have here on my screen, probably a good indication that I don't need it anymore. Now, if you're not ready to fully delete the report, just go ahead and click to edit one. And I'll show you how to use access types to clean them up a bit. So we have two access types that can help out here. One is our hidden report, which shows the report on the Manage page, but not in any of those top navigation dropdowns. Or alternatively, you could switch it to a private report, which means you will be the only one to see that report, either in the Manage page or in that top navigation list. So now that we've taken care of our duplicates, there's one other instance that we want to touch on in terms of cleaning up your account annually. So feel free to just take a look at my screen for this. And I'm going to go click on our matrix report. So for those of you familiar with this matrix or heat map type of report, you'll know that data can be displayed over multiple periods and that you can select the periods that you want to see. So when I click to edit this report, I'll see which period options we've selected right here on the page. And in the instance that you're tracking specific periods like quarters, which we are here, you'll want to make sure that these quarters are up to date for the upcoming year. So in our case, we don't want to see 2016 anymore. We're just going to go ahead and add those periods for 2017 instead. Great. Now we have a place where we can see the most up-to-date quarterly data for the upcoming year. And with that, let's switch gears to look at briefing books. So in your account, under Documents, in the Control panel, we're going to click on that first option, Briefing Books. Now, if you've been using ClearPoint for a long time, you may see several pages worth of templates. So if you have something like 2012 to 2013 board report, you probably don't need that. You'll want to check in here with your users about which templates they're still generating on a regular basis.
Keep in mind that other old templates, duplicates, or tests can be deleted. You'll wind up with a clearly labeled list of the reports that you still need throughout the year.
Exactly. And then the last aspect for briefing books is, are you using a confidentiality statement or a header or footer or a title that references a particular year? It's time to update those as well. Now, if we click to the second option under Documents in the Control panel, this will take us to our HTML exports. And depending on the size of your account, you may or may not see this option, so we'll walk through it quickly. Similar to briefing books, you'll want to just make sure that your templates here are still in use and any tests or duplicates can be deleted.
Great. So this brings us to one of ClearPoint's best kept secrets. While they're not technically a secret per se, we do find that users often overlook this great feature, notifications and reminders.
Notifications and reminders? They sound the same. Is there even a difference?
Good question, Catherine. It's easy to get mixed up, I know, but there actually is a difference. Notifications are intended to let a user know when a change has already occurred in ClearPoint. For example, a report is done generating, whereas email reminders let users know that a change still needs to occur. For example, I could send a reminder to let element owners know they need to update their respective data before our review in a couple of weeks. Both of these can be accessed under the Notifications tab in the Control panel. And making sure to set these up during the annual rollover is going to help you increase accountability across your organization and ultimately will help to ensure that the elements your users are responsible for are updated by the appropriate date. So start by adding in your new notifications and reminder templates and follow it up by deleting any outdated or unnecessary reminders or notifications that you won't be using in the upcoming fiscal year.
Awesome. So we're almost done here. For our final chapter, we'll touch briefly on the community dashboard for those of you that take advantage of our custom-built WordPress websites. Now, if you do any sort of annual rollover or strategic plan change, you'll want to make sure that any new elements you've created or elements you've deleted are updated on your dashboard. This does require manual changes, so updates to existing elements can be automatically updated. but new elements or deletions should either be coordinated with your webmaster or the ClearPoint team. So if you do have someone on your team who will be making those adjustments, be sure to reach out for your widget guide so that you'll know which widgets should be inserted using the ClearPoint plugin into which page templates in WordPress. And with that, it looks like we're reaching the end of our time here today, and we definitely want to leave time for your questions. So here's one that's come in. When is the best time to clean your ClearPoint account?
That's a good question. We really think that any time is a good time for ClearPoint cleaning, but if you want to choose one chunk of time, maybe the end of your calendar or your fiscal year would be the best. Otherwise, maybe you find it less daunting to apply different sections to different months and make sure you're doing a slow and steady purge each month. Cleanliness begets cleanliness, so the tidier you keep your account throughout the year, the less you're going to have to do all at once.
Exactly. So with that, we're about out of time. If you loved or hated following along with this webinar in your account, we'd be really curious to hear from you. We do want our webinars to be as useful as possible. So if you have feedback or suggestions, please feel free to send it to support@clearpointstrategy.com. And down the line, if you have any success stories to share about your ClearPoint cleaning, we'd really love to hear those as well. So we'd like to say a huge thank you for joining us on this episode of the I Didn't Know ClearPoint Could Do That webinar series. We'll see you next time, and happy reporting.